Have you ever wanted to load data without using DataLoader, DataLoader IO, or the standard data import tool? Have you ever wanted to query your org without writing SOQL? In this video, Thomas Karnga is discussing Workbench, which will support you in your Salesforce learning journey. Welcome! It's Rachel and Jessica from 100 Days at Trailhead, the place where the tech community comes to learn Salesforce, learn tech, get inspired, have fun, and invest in ourselves. Whether you are brand new to learning Salesforce and starting from the beginning, or mid-career and skilling up for that new opportunity, we are your trail guides here to support you with an itinerary to help you get where you're going. You are in the right place. If you are new to our channel, make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to click on the notification bell so you can be notified when we release a new video. In the description below, you can find links on everything we mention in this video, in addition to links we find helpful like books that have helped us and our friends along our tech and Salesforce journeys. To find other helpful Salesforce and tech content, visit our blog at 100daysoftrailhead.com. In this video, Thomas Karnga is discussing Workbench, which will assist you in tasks like loading data and querying your org. Thomas is originally from Atlanta, Georgia, with an education in art and business. He moved to the Phoenix area for a career in the IT field. He took on roles as middleware support and Linux administrator. After joining Salesforce Saturday, he leveraged his technical background to learn Salesforce and launch his Salesforce career as a certified administrator. After consistent membership for 2 years, Thomas became a co-leader of Phoenix Salesforce Saturday, the second in the world. Your quest, should you choose to take it, is to journey with us through the adventure of learning Workbench. Your quest begins now.
My name is Thomas Karnga. I've been with Salesforce Saturday for, at least 2 years now, I think. So a little bit about me. I am originally from Atlanta, Georgia. Moved out to the Phoenix area to start a career in IT. So I started out doing like application support, working on Windows and Linux boxes, testing out deployments for DirecTV. I've also been a Linux administrator full-time, and now I am a certified Salesforce admin. And yeah, so that's the bit about me, and co-host of Salesforce Saturday. So enough about me. I'm going to just go ahead and just share my screen for this little tool called Workbench. All right, so this here is my top 5 tips for using Workbench. Some of you may already be familiar with Workbench. It's very popular among the Salesforce ecosystem. And if you don't, then you'll be learning about this tool and how it's used and how it can help you in your career. So, solutions. So, have you ever wanted to check out what objects exist in your Salesforce org and relationships between each field? As an admin and developer, the answer is, of course you do. That's what Schema Builder and Object Manager are for. So if you guys are familiar with the inner workings of Salesforce, we have Schema Builder, which is basically a window that kind of shows a diagram between your objects and how they're related to each other. It also kind of gives you like a built-in list of all of the fields associated with that object. And then you also have Object Manager, which that's where you can create new fields or custom objects. Or do you want to insert, delete, or maybe update records? And of course, we all want to do that. And the tool to use that from the Salesforce perspective is the DataLoader that is native to Salesforce. So if you guys are familiar with just doing imports or exports, DataLoader is normally what you use natively out of Salesforce to map the fields that you have for your Excel files to load into your objects. Well, how about you want to find the name of a lead or an opportunity or report, but your only clue is one word among thousands of records that contain that same word? You might say, no way, I don't want to do that. I'll be scrolling for days trying to find that record. And me personally, I've had to do this where um, I might have an assignment to find a record, for example, or a report. You may have, let's just say, a number of users, and users may create a report, name it after themselves, or just name it something generic. And because they may not be proficient in Salesforce, they just, just create something uh, and they just kind of leave it there. So what does that do? That takes up space for storage. It makes your org kind of junky, and you have to like clean it up. And so let's just say that um, this user, Robert, for example, just creates a ton of reports. And it's all that it has Robert in it, So you could do it the long way and just try to find Robert, or if you have another report that's, you know, uh, has one word, but it's so redundant that you have to scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll to find this report. That's time consuming. You don't have time for that. What if I told you that it's super easy, hardly an inconvenience? Not only that, all these above things can be done from one place without creating a new browser tab or backing out of active ones. And this is where we admins and devs can use a tool called Workbench. All right. I'm not going to go into all of the things as far as like who created Workbench, but I will talk just a quick overview of Workbench. There are a number of great things about Workbench that cannot be ignored. Although this suite of tools was not developed by Salesforce, it's an open source tool. It works seamlessly with orgs as if it was. Just like Salesforce, Workbench is cloud-based, meaning that, like Salesforce, no matter where you are, as long as you have access to a browser, you can access Workbench. So let's just say that you're not in the office. Let's just say that you went out for happy hour with your coworkers, and you want to, do some work. Of course, you can just open up your browser on your computer and open up to Salesforce. That's great. But the same thing can be done with Workbench, where you open up a browser, um, type in the URL to Workbench, and wherever you are, not only can you access Workbench, but you can tie in your Salesforce org to Workbench. There are no need for downloads to your PC or Mac, and it's completely free, which is also a great thing. It's not a system that you have to pay a fee for or have a subscription for, um, although it does have a download option. So let's go ahead and see what this looks like. All right. The first tip that I have, and I'm not going to go through all of everything that is Workbench, but I will give you some tips. The first tip is that I want to mention is somewhat obvious from the start of the login screen when you enter the Workbench URL. And so here's the URL. You guys can just copy this. It's workbench.developerforce.com. Workbench has two login options for production and the sandbox. So if you can see this graphic here, I may have to back out of the slideshow to kind of show you a little bit more, but this is what the login page looks like. And as you can see here, you have the option for production showing here. And when you click that, it'll also give you the option to go into your sandbox. So not only can you enter your production org, you can also enter into your sandbox. So let's just say that you want to check if there's any major differences between your production org and any of your sandbox boxes. For example, an admin may have had an assignment to create processes and fields in a sandbox to test. Then when it was ready, it would be pushed to production. But something is wrong. A process is not working. You use Workbench to see the differences between your production org and the sandbox. Using standard and custom objects menu, the standard and custom objects menu, you can see all child relationships, fields, and even record types of every object in the org you are logged into. You find that the admin forgot a field and a record type by comparing the sums next to those folders. So let me back out of here and let me just show you what that looks like. If I could just open up my browser here. Can you guys still see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's go into Workbench here. So as you can see here, there's production, and here's the sandbox. So to note, if you are logging into your sandbox or you want to connect to your sandbox, make sure that you put in your sandbox credentials. If you have this option here, production, and you put in the sandbox credentials, it won't work. So I'm going to log into production. Also, another great thing is that production doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be like a enterprise org. So let me log in with Salesforce. We're actually going to log into my dev org. So here are my dev org credentials here. Hit log in. All right, so now I'm in. So as I said before, I don't have, this is not my work org or any enterprise org. This is simply my dev org, which anybody can get for free. And let's see what I'm talking about as far as comparing. So let me open this up just a little bigger. So here you have the standard and custom objects option. And let's just say, like for our scenario, we just want to know what's our object. Let's just say that the object is, let's just go to count. Oh, okay, that's nice.
Wouldn't be a tech demo without a screen like that.
All right, there we go. And as you can see here, we are looking at the account object. And so how does this help? Well, if you logged into your Salesforce org, you would have to, go through setup and then go to object manager or schema builder. Then you would have to scroll down and, but here you have a simplified breakdown of your object. So like here, for example, here are all the child objects or child relationships that your account object has. So as you can see, it has the dot notation, account dot parent ID, so on and so forth, case dot account ID, basically saying that there is a relationship between the case and the account, and this is the dot notation for accounting for that relationship, whether it's a master detail or a lookup relationship. And here are all of our fields. It shows all of the standard as well as the custom fields. So what I could do is, as I'm logged into here, I could open up another tab to Workbench, and then I could then log into my sandbox, and I could see that there will be a difference between the sandbox and production. So if I made, let's say I created new fields, or, new fields, and I wanted to make that in sandbox and push it to production. Sometimes we do forget to push things over because of, it may be a big project that we're working on. But here we could see just here, like record types. Let's just say I created a record type in the sandbox, and I see that there's only one record type in production, but there are two record types in my sandbox. So I can also break this down, drill down to get all of the attributes of my record type. There's the developer name, and that is the record type ID. So that's just one tip that I could give, as far as like instead of opening a number of tabs, opening your production org, and then opening your sandbox orgs, and then scrolling down and trying to find out what's going on, compare and contrast. What you could do is open up a number of tabs, which you can open up a Workbench tab. It's just like Salesforce, where you can open up different tabs, and it won't mess you up. It won't it has the ability to open up different tabs and still see the same information. So that is my tip number one, that you can compare easily between your sandbox and production orgs. See, tip number two. Not only is Workbench able to help you compare data between orgs, the metadata and components menu is helpful in searching metadata as well. Let's take, for example, Apex classes. By looking up the metadata for Apex classes in Workbench, it's all in alphabetical order and faster than scrolling through page by page in the Salesforce GUI. You can even see when the classes was created instead of just when it was last modified only. So when you go into your Salesforce org, you can scroll into that org, searching for the Apex classes. But with Workbench, it's a one-stop shop, pretty much. So let's see what that looks like. So we go here and we go to metadata types and components. And as you can see here, now instead of having a list of objects and fields, we have the other components related to Salesforce. Like here's Apex class here, Apex trigger, assignment rule. And let's go to my favorite. So workflow rule. And so all these other components of Salesforce you can see. So let's go to Apex class. And yeah, so here are all of our Apex classes. This is just specific to my dev org. I've downloaded some applications, like this application is Sign Now. So all of the classes related to it are all here. So let's see. Here's an Apex class called Flower. Now, me, Blake, and Robbie, we actually created this class this week, just doing some trailheads. So let's look at the information. So here is the ID, created September 23rd, 2020. And here's a number of other attributes here. Also, another great thing, for some reason it's kind of stuck right here. It also has links. So you can see this created by ID. So you see this Salesforce ID, which means that since I was the one that created it, it has my ID here, according to Salesforce. And then when you hover over the link, you have these options, which in a sense can be a little scary because you have update. Not sure if you want to update your own ID. I wouldn't want to mess with that. But the great thing you can do is you can hit this, which is view in Salesforce. So let's hit that. And I don't know if you noticed, but I actually didn't have my Salesforce org up. But because Workbench is connected to my Salesforce org, whenever I hit the link here, it will actually automatically pull up the Salesforce org that is linked to, and here I am as a user. So pretty great. All right. I hope I'm not going too fast. And I think this may be recorded, but anyway. Tip number 3, SOQL and SOQL capabilities of this tool are valuable in not only of searching for and investigating data, but also as a replacement for the data import wizard. So me personally, I actually am more comfortable with Workbench than I am data import wizard. Not to put any tool down; they're both used great. But this, I've really had. I felt like I haven't had the need to use data import wizard, even though it is there for me to use. So if you're not familiar with SOQL or SOQL, SOQL stands for Salesforce Object Query Language, and SOQL is Salesforce Object. I'm forgetting what that is.
Search language.
Yes, thank you. um, so these languages are very much related to SQL. SQL is a language for querying and manipulating any database information. So since Salesforce technically is a database, it's just a database with a GUI. These two languages are really helpful in searching for information in the Salesforce org as if it's searching for a database. The bulk CSV option is the one that I use the most. I'll show you that in a minute. I use it because it gives me the faster option to download CSV files for the query searches. After the CSV file is downloaded, it can be edited in Excel to update or add on data to be uploaded quickly, also through Workbench. Let's see. Let's pull up my browser one more time. And let's go to here. So SOQL query. And if you're not familiar with just what a query is, it's just, you're just digging up information. You're not executing code. You're not changing anything in your Salesforce org. You're just using this tool to dig out data and records just to see. So here we are, SOQL query. And let's just use the account object. All right. And so now that we've selected the account object, all of the fields related to this object are now here. Now, remember, so these fields are all in the API name. So if you see this customer priority _ C, remember that is a custom field that's created anytime you see that. So if let's say that this field is called customer priority, you just have to make sure that when you're searching for it, you're actually searching for the Salesforce API name. And as you can see, as I selected this, it has made a SOQL statement down here. So for those who are familiar with a SOQL statement, you'll have select, then here is the field customer priority _ C from the account object. Here we only are on the list mode, which means that all it is just trying to create a list for you to see. So let's see what that looks like. I'll go down here and hit query. All right. So this being my dev org, there's not a whole lot of information, but it did pull up something. So customer priority from the account object, here are all of the fields that have custom priority from the account. And let's just say that we want it to be a little bit more descriptive, because right now I have no idea how to really use this information. So let's add on to it. Let's see, ID. Right here is the account ID, which I think every SOQL statement should at least have the ID, so you can know exactly the record that's tied to. So let's just hit query. Okay, so here is the Salesforce ID associated with this account. Well, that's nice and all, but I still, for me being a human, I don't want to just read ID numbers. So let's see, let us add name. And you can continue this on and on and on for select, just to add on different fields, and it will just continue to add on different columns. There we go. Okay, so now that makes more sense. So here is the account name, the T factory. Here is the Salesforce ID associated with it. Now, you see how I'm hovering over this? Now, instead of just, finding out or scrolling through my Salesforce GUI, different account names, I could just look this up, hover over this, and view this in Salesforce. And I won't do that right now, but you've seen that in action. Let me go back to the presentation. The hot tip, really, which is really powerful, is that you don't need to know SOQL language. That's all right. This tool is forgiving if you don't know how to like just make those statements. The drop downs in the query menu will create statements for you. Playing around with the options teaches you how SOQL works and what statements should look like. So if let's just say I don't know SOQL language, but let's just play around with this. Let's try to sort this. Let's see, search for an account and let us sort by industry. Let's do that. So you see, as I've done that, now my SOQL statement has changed. And it's added the statements for you, ordered by industry. And I don't want to see a whole lot of records. So let's just say I want to see just 4 records. So it's added limit 4, and you didn't even know that you could type that in. It just kind of did it for you. And let's see, let's filter the results by, let's see, okay, name is, see, contains the, I'll just put the here, and let's see what happens. Okay, so it gave us that query result. It didn't pull in all of the other fields, so I can just add that. So add name and query. There we go. So these are all of the records in the account object where the account name has the word the in it. So those are the results. This option here, the bulk CSV, let's see what that does. See query. All right. So not only did it query what we just did, it said it completed processed 4 records, which we just saw. But now, if you see this, you can download this as a CSV file. So if I hit this, now we can use this and we can edit it, which this is what I usually do when I use this tool for the most part. I make a query, then I make a CSV, and then I can edit that CSV so I can put it back into Salesforce. So there it is. All right, so let's get rid of that. Okay, tip number 4. For those who are developers, there are many aspects to Workbench that I can't explain in full detail because I'm just not a developer. But the Apex Execute option under Utilities should be familiar to you if you use Execute Anonymous window. Apex Execute eliminates going to the developer console to execute code like Apex classes. So let's look at that. I'm pretty sure most everyone is familiar with the developer console. So I'll just pull that up here. All right. Okay. And so, yeah, this here is just a class that me, Blake, and Robbie were fooling around with. And here is the open execute anonymous window. So use this to go ahead and execute this code with a debug log. So I can hit execute. Okay, let's see what the debug log looks like. All right. So we have our debug log. This is for the T factory. And actually haven't tested this out, but in theory, I should be able to do the same thing in Workbench. So let's open that window up again. And let me copy this. And let us go to Apex Execute. All right, let's see. We have Apex code and we have a debug. So let us paste our code in here. And there we are. So again, it's just it's another way to just just emphasize that Workbench is a one-stop shop. And we got basically the same results as we got from Developer Console. All right, and so here's the last tip. And I will set up this this story or this use case. So let's just say that we are getting complaints from the security team that the new Salesforce users are starting to set up their password as password123. This is a problem, obviously, because it's too simple. What you can do is you could reset the password and set up where Salesforce can send them an email to set up a new password, but places the power of password creation back to our uninspired users. So if I pull up our Salesforce org and I'll just kind of go through how to reset the password if you're not familiar with it. So I'll just go through just how you do that, just going through the Salesforce GUI. So here we are in my dev org. We're in the setup and we want to reset someone's password. So we'll go down here to users and to users. And I don't have many users. It's just some random people and my mom. Let us go to Deb. All right, so here we have Deb. Deb keeps on putting password 123, which the security team does not like. And let's just say we hit reset password, and he will get an email from Salesforce saying, giving him a link to reset his password, but we don't want to give the power back to Dev so he can do another simple password. The security team actually wants to create their own passwords and then give it to the users. So in order to do this, under utilities, there is an option called password management. This time we have control over what a user's password is. I suggest throwing some carets and $signs. So what does that look like? So let's go back to our browser, and let's stay away from this reset password because we want to have control. So we're back here in Workbench, and let us go to password management. All right, so here we are, password management, and it gives us the option for the user ID, the password, and just to make sure that it's the right one, confirm password. So let's actually go back here to the SOQL query, and let's just query users. All right, here we go, users. And here are all the fields that we have for users. And let's just find, where is it? User ID. Here we are. And let's add name to that. And query. All right. So now here we have Deborah here, and we have his user ID right here. So I can copy that. And let's go back to password management. So now that we have his user ID, we can set it to whatever we want. Just a more difficult one. And then we can give that password to Deb saying, this is the password that you must use in order to access your org. Here we have the option of set, and we have the option of reset. And reset basically does what reset password and setup does, which we just saw, but we don't want to do that. We want to actually set his password. So that is the 5 tips that I have for using Workbench. Does anyone have any questions?
Hey, Thomas.
Hey, Robbie.
That was pretty awesome. I actually didn't know almost all of that stuff about Workbench, and I appreciate the presentation. I wrote down some questions, and it seems like this is, because for a while I was thinking, why wouldn't you just use DataLoader? I was thinking this was just a data tool to import and export data, but looks like there's a lot more involved with it. I jotted down some questions, and I think you touched on a couple of them, but I wasn't sure if I was correct or not. And so you can download this for your computer and stay connected with Salesforce with your org. Is that what you said? You can download this as a desktop app.
You do have the option of downloading it as a desktop, but I really don't see why. since you can access it through your browser, and a lot of times, actually, I guess maybe because of cookies, when I do go to Workbench because I have it saved um, in my browser. Once I click it, it remembers my credentials. So sometimes I
Yeah.
don't even have to put my credentials. As soon as I go to Workbench, it will open up.
Okay. And then also you said, or I'm not sure, it looked like you could do this, but did you say that you can create objects and fields and classes within Workbench? You're able to create those, and it will basically just deploy to your sandbox or to your org, whatever your production, whatever you have it set up to. Is that
No,
correct or no? Oh, okay.
no, it can't create objects. What it can do is, you can create a CSV file,
Mhm.
and then you can update all of the fields in an object, just like as you would do with DataLoader.
Mhm.
Um, or you can delete objects or update objects.
Okay.
So instead of just like going to the org and just let's just say you have a report and you export the report, it comes out as a CSV. You can do all of that through Workbench. Download um, the results of the query through Workbench,
Mhm.
so that you know that all the information is correct. Make your changes, upload it back into Workbench, and then it will load up
Yeah.
into your org.
This looks like it could be used to create like certain documentation for for new like developers and stuff to kind of like a quick I forget what they call it, but basically like an overview of what the system is, so that way you don't have to, like you said, spend time going through Salesforce GUI and trying to figure out relationships and field names and stuff. It looks like you could actually just pull up those relationships and all the details really, and create your own documentation, like PDF or something. So whenever you have a consultant come in or a new developer, that they have quick access guide like, hey, this is how these relate, and these are the fields. Here's the API names, and this is the information I need.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of going in one by one to each object and clicking, you know, in the object manager and looking at the fields and getting the API names that way. So that's pretty cool. I had no idea that this was. I knew it was. I had heard that it was a great tool for developers, but I didn't know that it did all this. So that was pretty cool. Very insightful. I'll let someone else ask if they wrote down some questions.
Hey, I'm Raji here. I have a question. What about security in terms of like this is not developed by Salesforce and it's connecting to your org?
Mm-hmm.
So, like how how sure am I like to use this if it's, I don't know, security
Mm-hmm.
threat to my org data? Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They as Workbench, as it is open source, like when you go to the beginning of the login page, it does kind of say like, um not like a at your own risk. It's just kind of like just letting you know, like, like isn't this isn't Salesforce. You can't go to Salesforce and say like, okay, we've had a problem with our Workbench. I believe you can reach out to the designers of this tool whenever you have any problems, or if you have any like security questions. But I guess the short answer is you know it there is they kind of say up front, like, there is like, just this risk. But it is a great tool, and I'm surprised that Salesforce hasn't bought it out yet. Um, but I mean, to me, it works so seamlessly as if it actually is a part of Salesforce.
Okay, thank you.
Well, this has been really fantastic, Thomas. Thank you so, so much. Good job. Yay!
Thanks, Thomas.
Thanks, Thomas.
And with that, we're at the end. Are you planning on using Workbench now? What tip did you find most helpful? What other topics do you want us to cover on this channel? Comment below. We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. If you've made it to this point, we want to take an opportunity to say thank you. Since you've stayed with us, here's a bonus. Workbench is a powerful tool. Let's watch as Thomas provides a warning.
Be mindful of what org you're logged into, because this is a very powerful tool. When you log in to Workbench, it will actually have your name, and it'll have the org's name attached to it. So make sure that when you do these things that you're logged into the right org, because because it's so powerful, you might end up either wasting time or doing something in production that you don't intend to do.
Thank you for spending time with us. Make sure you like this video. It helps a lot. Click subscribe and on the notification bell so you never miss another video. We also handpick these videos, which we recommend you watch next. You can talk to us on Instagram, Twitter, and on our website at 100daysoftrailhead.com, all of which are listed below. Thank you for learning with us, and we'll see you back tomorrow.